Hello everyone. Nice to meet you all. And yeah, it's a big honor to give a talk in front of such nice audience at such great conference. And yeah, I really appreciate that you are here because it's the last talk in the track and you didn't run off to drink beer or I don't know, something else and decided to stay and to listen my talk. I'm sure that you will learn something new and interesting for you. So I'm going to talk with you about one interesting approach to web development. But before we started, let me say a couple of words about myself. My name is Aleksandr Denisov. I work for EPAM Systems as a chief software engineer, and I'm head of Flutter discipline in our company. Yeah, please raise your hand who have heard about EPAM Systems before. Yeah, three hands, nice. For people who haven't heard, yeah, EPAM is a big software engineering company. We provide engineering solutions and propose engineering culture. And we have about, I don't exactly remember, 50,000 employees around the globe and offices in 40 countries. And yeah, we have expertise in any business area and any technology area and can just solve any complicated issue or challenge, whatever. Besides that, I'm also Google developer expert in Flutter and Dart and organizer of Flutter Berlin community. So if you, after my talk, will interested in Flutter and be in Berlin, welcome to our events. We organize once per month. Yeah, I will be really glad to see you there. So what else? Oh yeah, today I will give a talk not alone. I have co-speakers. It's Rubber Ducks, EPAM Rubber Ducks. Yeah, they will help me. And sometimes I probably will ask questions to audience, and if you answer really correct, I will throw the duck to the audience. Yeah, I hope I won't kill anyone. Yeah, and some of you are really far away from me, but yeah, I will try. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Yeah, by the way, this is QR code to my Twitter. If you still use Twitter, it's not Twitter anymore, but still, you don't hesitate and follow me there. Okay. Web development. Which approach to implement web applications nowadays is like more correct? It's a kind of stupid question, I will say, because there are a lot of different frameworks, different languages that can be used there, and web developers sometimes can work with all of them or with some of them. It depends on project, depends on a lot of things. It can be used one or other one approach, framework. And today, I would like to talk with you about one more framework that usually doesn't consider it as a web framework, but it can be used for such purposes. Try to guess which framework. Who answer me? Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, nice. Flutter, exactly. And the first question, Please raise your hand who knows what Flutter is. Ah, yeah, me. Yeah, but I should know. I'm speaker. Yeah. Okay, not all of you. And for people who didn't raise a hand, I will tell a couple of words about Flutter. Flutter is a cross-platform framework that was created in Google, and initially Flutter provided opportunity to create applications for iOS and Android with from one code base written in Dart language. But since version Flutter 3.3, Flutter got support of more platforms, and now you can compile Flutter application for 6 platforms from one code base: iOS, Android, web, and 3 desktop platforms: Linux, macOS, and Windows. So, one more question. Please raise your hand who understand, people who know what Flutter is, of course, who understand how does Flutter work. Yeah, surprise, surprise, again, me. Nobody. Okay, a few words about how Flutter works. And to be more clean, I will start with mobile, how Flutter works on mobile. There is a scheme, I don't know, architecture scheme, diagram of classical native application for iOS and Android. On the right side, we have platform. On the left side, code implemented by developers, Swift, Kotlin, Java, whatever. Yeah, and on the right side, you can see there is like platform services, iOS or Android, like GPS, like Bluetooth, audio, camera, all services provided by platform. And there is a canvas and events. Events, I mean the tabs on the screen, on something else, just events provided by platform. And canvas is a canvas on which platform render UI. And there is UI components, native UI components provided by platform, like buttons and all other kinds of UI elements that can be used by developer. And developer just added native UI components to our application, and platform rendered them. And developer can call services from a platform directly. And how Dart works? Flutter, of course, Flutter. Yeah, Flutter has one code base that can be run on both platforms, and platform channels to call services directly from Dart code. And Flutter doesn't use UI native components in comparison, for example, with React Native. Flutter use own widgets that rendered directly on canvas with Flutter rendering system. And if you take a look to this architecture scheme of Flutter framework itself, on the top, there are application code that's implemented by developer. And the middle is a framework code implemented by Dart, on Dart as well. And there's widgets, like rendering preparing system, animations, everything. And the low level is the engine level, implemented in C++, C++. And there is Skia. Skia is a two-dimensional rendering system that renders everything for Flutter on mobile devices screens. Also, there is Dart virtual machine, text renderer, and some other parts. But the most important thing is that this engine part is common for all platforms, but part of it different, part that connected to the platform. One implementation for iOS, another implementation for Android. And so if we just run application written in Flutter on both iOS and Android, there will be no difference. Almost no difference. For example, back button out of the box are different for iOS and Android. But if you want to follow style guides and so on, you need to prepare yourself difference for iOS and Android. For example, there is, for example, iOS and Android, you need to prepare yourself difference for iOS and Android. For example, there is, 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 for Yeah. There is widget catalog with widgets for iOS and widgets for Android. You can, for example, add Cupertino widgets for iOS implementation and material widgets for Android. But usually it's not reusable solution. Usually some widgets that really looks different on iOS Android is taken from different catalogs. Yeah, not material. Now it's material free because it's new design system by Google. Yeah. And in this case, if you want to have different UI on iOS Android, you can implement platform-specific widgets, and UI will look differently, more platform natively. Yeah, that's enough probably to talk about mobile because we are in front-end track and need to switch to talk about web. How Flutter works on web. There is a very simple answer. Do you remember probably this architecture scheme? And of course, just a low-level thing are different for web. There are other HTML, CSS, rendering implementation canvas, WebGL, WebAssembly, and it just render Flutter application in browser. Yeah, we should remove web view because web view on web it's something ridiculous. Yeah, and there is two different rendering approach for Flutter: HTML and Canvas Kit. HTML, it's generate DOM from widget tree and just create web application with DOM and transform Flutter widgets to HTML elements using like paragraph, image, canvas, and so on. And Canvas Kit don't create DOM. It uses only one canvas component and render everything in one canvas. It just connected Skia as a WebAssembly and render everything using WebGL. So how it looks like for web. For example, for HTML rendering, we have generated DOM that renders in browser. For Canvas Kit, it's without any DOM, render everything at canvas at all. And you also can call services from browser using JS interoperability because Dart compiles to JavaScript, and this way you can call JavaScript method from Dart. And there is two different compilers, Dev compiler and Dart2JS compiler that optimize it for different purposes. Dart Dev compiler generate optimized for debug code that give opportunity to do hot reload and see your changes very fast when you do something. And Dart2JS is different compiler that prepared specifically code optimized by size and by speed. So, to demonstrate how it works, I took one of my simple applications that implemented specifically for examples and launched it in browser. Voila, we have web application. It's just very simple application. It's planets market. It's panels with name and image of planet and price. And if you tap to the planet details are opened. And in the web, it works the same, just in the browser. So if you take a look how it looks inside with HTML rendering, you see there is paragraph for text, div for panel, image for image, and text in title a little bit more complicated, and Flutter wasn't able to transform it to paragraph and transform it to canvas and render as a canvas. If we take a look to the Canvas Kit renderer, it will be only one canvas, nothing else. And if you take a look to the code generated by Flutter, the right side is the HTML, left side Canvas Kit. And for HTML, it's just beginning. It's very, very long code will be there. And so HTML, it's much less performant, but much less size, has much less size. So which one should we use? It's up to you. HTML, much more small, as I mentioned before, but less productive. And CanvasKit, much more productive, but bigger for, as I remember, 3 megabytes, something like that. But for if you have not very high speed, 3 megabytes does matter. And if you decide not to choose any render and just build your application by default, it will be generated, HTML or CanvasKit. It will be compiled in both ways. But if you will open your application on desktop, it will be CanvasKit. On mobile browser, it will be HTML, because creators probably expected that if you work from mobile, your connection speed not such big as you have on desktop. And just if you want to check yourself how it works, I deployed both options to web and HTML and CanvasKit. You can go to code and you can check it. You will see that animation when you open the planet on CanvasKit much more fluent in comparison with HTML. Okay. Let's talk about production. If you want to go to production with Flutter for web, there is 3 recommended scenarios how to use Flutter for web in production. It's creating PWA, it's creating single-page applications, and expand your mobile application to web. Flutter is a really useful approach in case if you need to support more than one platform. Probably if you need to implement only web applications, I don't think that Flutter will be useful because it's easier to use classical approach. I don't know, Angular, Vue, React. But if you need to support mobile and web, or web and desktop, or all of them, Flutter can help you to save resources very much. Let's take a look. If we decided to expand mobile, should we add some functionality to application, or we can use it as is? So, if we work with mobile, there is just tabs. But if we work with web application, there are mouse and keyboard, and I'm expecting if I, for example, move my mouse to the panel, I will see kind of hover effect. And if I press the tab, I'm expecting that there will be focus and it will be moved. So for mobile application, we don't need such functionality. So it should be implemented for web additionally. And for example, URL. You see, if I open details of planet, there is nothing changed in URL. But I'm, as a user of application, expecting something like this, that there will be planet name and the browser will show me that I moved to another page. And what else? Back button. You see, there is 2 back buttons. One browser back button, the second application back button. And they work different way because back button in browser take us back in browser history, and application back button, it's back button application. But if you take a look, for example, to Gmail application, there's also 2 back buttons. And they also work different way. So let's don't consider the last one as an issue and decide that it's not a bug, this is a feature. But for all other additional things, we need to implement it additionally to have proper UX. There is a workshop also published by me with examples of how we can add such functionality if you will try something like this in future, you can use it. And the last one, of course, adaptability of layout. Mobile always has the one form factor. We can just change orientation of your mobile phone, but form factor will be the same. Browser, you can change the size, whatever you want. So your UI should be ready for this. It should be responsive or adaptive, or both. Who knows the difference between responsive and adaptive layouts? Nobody. Okay, Dax is sitting here. Yeah. There are 3 pillars that you need to remember when you move your mobile to web. Layout should be appropriate for the platform and screen size. Mouse and keyboard should be supported. Browser navigation should be supported. And that's it. But one more important thing, integrations. What if I have already natively implemented web functionality, and I want to reuse it? For example, I have HTML, CSS implemented piece, and I want to inject it in my Flutter application. Or I have already prepared Angular application, and I want to embed Flutter widget to there. Why Angular? Let's take React, doesn't matter. So it's possible. For example, there is an example how I added into Flutter application natively implemented button. I just put it inside and connect Flutter application with this button using JavaScript, because as I mentioned before, Dart interoperable with JavaScript. And opposite side, it's a really new feature. It was announced in February of this year, element embedding. So now we can embed Flutter in the native application. There is an example from the conference Flutter Forward. It's a static website and Flutter application inside the mobile phone. Everything around it's web, and what we see inside mobile phone, it's a Flutter application. I decided to try not to use static application, but use React, for example, and implemented my own example. Yeah, everything around mobile phone, it's React. Inside mobile phone, it's Flutter. And we have animation, for example, if you lose a life in game, the hand starts to shake in mobile phone. Yeah, and everything works fine. Pain. Of course, we always have some pain with something. And the biggest pain of Flutter for web is SEO. Who can tell me what SEO is? Start. Okay, yeah. I hope I see you. Oh, it's too dangerous. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's nice that you helped me, because, describing SEO to someone, it's a very complicated thing usually. What kind of pain do we have? As I described, Flutter do a lot of things with Canvas, and even to render everything on Canvas. So web crawlers can't recognize text that rendered on Canvas, so it can provide it to search engine. But yeah, there are a lot of workarounds that you can use, but it's still workaround. It doesn't work out of the box. From another side, search engines are improving every year. For example, Google now implemented their AI-based search. Who knows? Probably in some years afterwards, we won't need SEO at all. Yeah, who knows? But yes, it's still pain that you need to take into attention. And yeah, my favorite part of this talk, experimental things with Flutter app, new features that was implemented in this year, and only support in master branch, but probably soon will be in stable branch. Flutter supports pixel shaders now. And using pixel shaders, you can get, it's really fluent, but when we translate it to the big screen, there are lags. But it's really fluent animations that you can see in browser. And by the way, I mentioned pixel shader. Who knows what shader is? Okay, Doc is ready. Please. Exactly. Yeah, take a duck. Oh, yeah. I asked Wikipedia. Wikipedia told me the same as you. Yeah. It's a small graphic program that prepare graphic to render it in browser. And now Flutter supported and precompile them. That's why it works really fast. That's why animation can be really fast. I just took an example and launched my browser. It's Flutter application in browser. But you see lags again, but it's only because it's translated on the big screen. In my slides, when I prepared it, it was nice. I can show afterwards if you want. And the next thing, WebAssembly. Who has experience with WebAssembly? Yesterday was not talk about WebAssembly, how to use WebAssembly in backend. But we are talking about classical approach. Use WebAssembly in browser. Nobody? Who knows what a WebAssembly is? I have more ducks, by the way. No? Try, just try. Yeah. Yeah. Up. Yeah. There is small explanation and small scheme. Yeah, WebAssembly, it's small, portable, binary format that aimed to increase the speed of execution of something in browser in comparison with JavaScript. Yeah, and it allows to work with not JavaScript code in the browser because it's prepared bytecode that we're able to execute from JavaScript and connect it with browser. But it supports not all browsers. For example, WebAssembly doesn't work in Internet Explorer, if you remember such browser. For other browsers, it works fine. And amount of supported languages, a little bit more than on such scheme. And there is a Dart. It's experimental support. Now Dart can be compiled to WebAssembly. Yeah, and Flutter is the first, in this case, I can say framework for web development that has completely different approach. First of all, it's render everything on canvas instead of creation DOM. And it can be compiled as WebAssembly, not as a JavaScript. So it increases the speed of application much more in comparison with JavaScript compiled web application. I also prepared exam. Yeah, I forgot about this slide. This slide, it's in which browser Flutter compiled to WebAssembly, Flutter application compiled to WebAssembly will work. It's Chromium-based browsers after 115 version, and you need to set the enable WebAssembly garbage collection flag. And Firefox only nightly channel, and also with details how to prepare to check. For example, this example I also prepared it. It's a Linux Market compiled to WebAssembly. I also deployed to web. So. The last but not least slide. If you decide to try implement something with Flutter, there is a really nice documentation, and you can see how it's prepared, specifically for people who moved to Flutter from different technologies. There is Flutter for Android devs, Flutter for iOS devs, Flutter for React Native devs, Flutter for web devs, and even Flutter for the Marine devs. Somebody still use Xamarin, probably they think, who met Xamarin developer last year? I know, I'm not. Yeah, no, but yeah, the documentation is there. And you can start from there directly. It's very, very, very informative and useful documentation. And so on this, I finish my talk. There's again QR code to my Twitter. You can just write to me there if you have any questions. And there is a link to GitHub where source code of this Planet Market, if you want to try to launch it on your laptop and compare mobile and web and different renderings and so on. So if you have question right now, please ask.